Hi friends, today I am answering a question from one of our listeners. The question is, I want to know how to move forward after estrangement. Can you tell me how you accepted this? And honestly, I think that's a question many of us have asked at one point or another, because when estrangement first happens, it can feel impossible to imagine ever being able to move forward. The pain is so heavy, the grief is consuming your heart, and you wonder if you're always going to feel this way. The truth is, moving on after estrangement is a process. It's not something that you do overnight. It is something that you have to walk through one step at a time. But I can tell you, it is possible. I've walked this journey myself, and so have many other moms. It may not mean the pain disappears completely. It might not mean everything turns out the way you hope, but it does mean that healing can happen. Peace is possible and joy is possible. So today I'm going to share some of the things that were involved in that process and in that journey of moving forward after estrangement. I'm going to share what helped me begin living again instead of staying stuck in the heartbreak. So grab your notebook and a pen, heat up your favorite tea, and listen in. Hi friends, welcome to the Praying Moms of Estranged Children podcast. Are you struggling with strained relationships and losses that have shaken your faith and left you wondering where God is? If you long for peace, a deeper prayer life, and faith that holds steady, you're in the right place. I'm Sarah, a wife, mom of adult kids, and your Jesus-loving friend. Here you'll find encouragement to help you trust God and practical tools to pray with confidence as you walk closely with Him. So turn off your alarm clock, pour a strong latte, and find peace as you trust God with your children and your broken relationships. Picture this. You lay your head down on your pillow at 10 p.m. to go to sleep, and instead of tossing for hours like you usually do, replaying painful past memories in your mind about your child, you remind yourself of a comforting Bible verse. You say a heartfelt prayer, you close your eyes, and you drift off into dreamland without even feeling sad. Maybe you don't even have a single worry about how things are going to turn out with your child. You might be thinking right now, that's impossible. But I'm here to tell you, it is possible to trust God even while you wait for your child to come back to Him or back to you. That's what I can help you with. If you want to find peace even before reconciliation happens, instead of losing sleep over your relationship with your child, then it's time to schedule a peaceful parenting session with me. Today is the day to begin your healing. Schedule a peaceful parenting session by going to bit.ly/faith and peace. That's bit.ly/faith and peace. I'm ready to help you. Hi, friends. This episode honestly has been in the making for quite a while. I've been thinking a lot about it because I keep seeing estranged moms get stuck in this pain that seems to hold them back from living their lives and moving forward. And I felt like this was just the right time to release this episode. So I hope that it resonates with you, and I want to dive right in. Let's start by acknowledging that estrangement brings lots of questions and lots of really tough questions that we don't even necessarily want to answer, but that at some point we have to face. And one of those important questions is the topic of this episode, which is, how do we move forward after estrangement? How do we continue to live our lives when there hasn't been closure, or maybe there has been closure with our child that has happened on their end, but not ours? Now, for most of us who have gone through estrangement, we have no idea how long it's going to last or if it's going to come to an end and how it's going to end. We don't know if it's going to end in reconciliation, although that, of course, is our desire. So although we don't have all of the answers that we'd like to have, there are certain things that we can do for ourselves to move forward, to let go of the pain. One of the first things we need to do is understand that moving on or moving forward, however you want to phrase that, moving on and moving forward do not mean that you are ceasing to love your child. Sometimes when we're grieving and we're going through the grieving process, it can be hard to come to the point of acceptance and come to the point of closure because a part of us thinks that if we're happy again or when we're happy again, that means we didn't love our child. Maybe we equate grief with love, because without love, grief can't be a thing. You can't grieve something unless it mattered to you. And so when you get to the point of no longer experiencing that grief or being ready to let go of that grief, a part of you might feel guilty almost, as though you're ceasing to love your child, and nothing could be further from the truth. So it's important to come to the point of accepting that if you build a new life and you start doing things that you enjoy and you start healing from this awful pain of estrangement, that doesn't mean that you've stopped loving your child. You can love your child and miss your child and still let go of the sadness and let go of the grief and move forward and have a fulfilling life, whatever that looks like for you. And so give yourself the permission to move forward. That is huge. So I just want to say, if you're listening today and you've been carrying guilt about healing or guilt about having moments of joy again, I want to encourage you to release that guilt, because healing isn't a betrayal of your child. Healing doesn't mean that you've stopped praying for him or her. It doesn't mean that you've stopped hoping for reconciliation. And healing definitely doesn't mean that you've stopped loving your child. It also doesn't mean that the relationship is fixed. It doesn't mean reconciliation has happened. And it doesn't mean that you're no longer trapped by the pain of estrangement. It just means that the estrangement is no longer defining every minute and every part of your life. And I think that's where another important question comes into the picture for me. And that question is, do you actually want to be healed? Now, before you answer that, let me clarify what I mean. I'm not asking whether you want to stop loving your child. I'm not asking whether you've given up hope for reconnection. And I'm certainly not asking whether you're okay with the estrangement. What I'm asking is this: do you want to continue carrying the weight of this pain every day? Or do you want to begin healing from it and letting that pain go? Those are very different things. In John chapter 5, verse 6, Jesus approached a man who had been unable to walk for something like 38 years, and he asked him a surprising question. He asked, "Do you want to be healed?" And at first glance, that question sounds really strange. Of course, the man wanted to be healed. But I think sometimes we can become so accustomed to living with pain or living with our infirmity, whatever that is, that we stop imagining life beyond it. We stop believing that life could be any different. And I think that can happen in estrangement too. We get used to carrying the hurt. The grief becomes familiar, and our sadness becomes just something that we live with, without us even realizing how much space it's actually taking up in our hearts. And that's not because we enjoy it, it's just because we've had it for so long. At some point, we have to decide, are we willing to let God begin healing the wounded places in our hearts? Are we willing to open up our heart to Him and let Him do the work inside that needs to be done? Because healing isn't forgetting and it isn't giving up. And healing doesn't mean that reconnection won't happen. It could. It might still happen. Healing is allowing God to restore the parts of you that have been broken by what you've been through, and that definitely includes estrangement. Now, I think for most of us, we really do want to move forward. We really want to let go of the pain. So let me share a little bit more about how I did that. My faith is such an integral part of my life. So when I think about moving forward from estrangement and building a fulfilling life, I don't know how to do that apart from Jesus. I would not be where I am mentally or emotionally in terms of this estrangement journey if I didn't believe in God. That is just the total unvarnished truth. A person who doesn't believe in Jesus, I think, is going to have a very difficult time moving on from estrangement without harboring some kind of unforgiveness or bitterness or anger toward their adult child. For me, because I really believe that my strength comes from the Lord, my faith has made it possible for me to heal. My faith has made it possible for me to move forward. My faith has made it possible for me to let go of my worries and to surrender my child to the Lord. One of the ways that happened for me was through prayer. I developed a deep prayer life that was unlike my prayer life prior to being estranged from my children. I was a person who grew up knowing the Bible and believing in prayer, but when you experience a trial like estrangement, it completely changes you. You are not the same person that you used to be prior to the estrangement. It changes everything about you. And my prayer life deepened considerably because of the estrangement. Would I want to go through the estrangement again? Of course not. Nobody wants to be estranged from their children. But I will say that my prayer life and my deeper relationship with the Lord is a result of the estrangement. Because if I had not been estranged from my child, I might have sought God deeper in prayer. I might have grown a deeper relationship with God, but I'm sure that there would have been some other trial that caused that to come about. Because the truth is, pain drives us to our knees. It just does. When we are in a desperate situation and we can't see the way out of it, we're driven to our knees. We're compelled to pray like we have never prayed before. And estrangement did that for me. Estrangement made me pray like never before. Another thing is that during deep prayer, the Lord began to heal me little by little. Every day that I showed up just trying to seek his face, and every day that I poured out my tears and my prayers, my needs to him, he was healing my soul little by little. He is the ultimate healer, and he's able to heal parts of you that you could never imagine. Now, the second thing is that I learned to surrender what I couldn't control. One of the things that you have to do as an estranged mom, eventually, at some point in your healing process, you have to get to the point of surrendering control, because the situation with your adult child reminds you daily that you don't have control. You can't control your child's choices, their desires, their actions, their words, and you can't control the outcome of the estrangement. All you can do is control yourself and your reactions and what you choose to do with the information that you have about your estrangement. And so one of the things that happened for me through deep prayer was that I learned how to surrender my child to the Lord. I learned to say, God, you used me as a vessel to bring this child into the world, and you made me this child's mother for a reason, and I did my very best to raise this child according to your ways and to love him and to be there for him and to provide for him in the very best way that I knew how. When I surrendered my child to the Lord, I released control over the outcome of estrangement. I released the desire to control what was happening in my child's life or in our relationship. I can't say that I ever released the desire to be reconciled and to reconnect with my adult child, because I think as a mother, you will always have that desire. Unless anger or unforgiveness or bitterness or resentment block off that desire within you, I think that you will always want to have a restored and healthier relationship with your child. That is just motherly love at its core. You know, we never dreamed that we wouldn't have contact with our children or that our relationship with them would be broken or strained or distant in any way. And when that happens, it's really hard to grapple with. I totally get that. So through my journey of estrangement, I learned to surrender my child to the Lord and to say, Lord, I give this child back to you. You gave him to me for a season. I raised him. I did the best that I could. Now I give him back to you, and I trust that you are going to do whatever is needed in his life to draw him back to you, first of all, and to restore our relationship in your time and in your way. And even if I never reconcile with my child here on earth, I know that I will reconcile with him in heaven because he's accepted you as his Lord. I think that's a huge part of coming to the point of accepting that you can't control your child, that this estrangement is what it is. At the end of the day, you have to face the fact that you can't control the outcome. You can't control the timing. You can't control your child's desire to reconnect. You can wish for it to happen. You can hope for it to happen, but you can't make it happen because we can't control other people. So you release all of that to God. You know, one of the things that is hard to remember when you're on the journey of estrangement and you're really trying to process the hard, difficult parts of it is that God's ways are not our ways. His timing is not our timing. His thoughts are not our thoughts. And so often we get frustrated with the timing. We want reconciliation now. We want relief from the pain now. And sometimes God's ways are different. His timing is different. His thoughts about how to solve the problem are different. So while we're waiting for his answers to our prayers, or while we're waiting for breakthroughs in our relationship with our child, or we're waiting for them to express an interest in reconnecting with us, God is teaching us patience. He's teaching us how to trust him, how to rely on him, how to seek him first, how to surrender our desires and our timeline to him. Another thing that I did to help me reach that point of acceptance and to move forward from estrangement is that I engaged in personal healing. What I mean by that is I did the things that I knew to do to begin to heal. And when I didn't know what to do to begin to heal, I sought out the resources that I thought would be helpful in my healing. I read books on the topic of estrangement. I realized that I needed to find ways to fill my time, and I needed to focus my energies on new things that didn't revolve around my kids. So I made a list of things I wanted to learn. I made a list of activities I wanted to do and people that I wanted to connect with. I wrote down everything that came to my mind. You know, I wanted to learn how to garden. I wanted to learn how to bake bread from scratch. I wanted to get into a regular exercise routine. I wanted to connect with other women outside of my work. I wanted to make new friendships. I wanted to go on date nights with my husband each week. Just having that list of activities that I wanted to do helped me tremendously because it got my focus off of the estrangement. It got my focus off of the pain. Yeah, I still had bursts of grief from time to time. I still broke down and I cried at times, and that's okay. That is okay. It's okay to not feel okay sometimes. But as I began doing other things and engaging in other activities, I started to see that I can still have a joyful life. I can still have a meaningful life. Another thing I did that helped me move forward and heal was that I joined a support group. I listened to podcasts like this one. And all of those things began to give me tools and began to give me hope that I could move forward, that I could forgive my adult child, that I could try to see things from his perspective, that I could look at things from the past and see how I was triggered by some things that my children said or did because of things that I had experienced in the past. And I could begin to let God heal those parts of me. The other thing I did is I started helping other women. After I went through a couple of support groups and I benefited from those, I decided that I would start leading some. And so a friend of mine and I began to co-lead some of those support groups. I started a Facebook community. I started this podcast to help other women through the pain of estrangement. And it's amazing how when you're helping other people and you're serving other people, it's amazing how much you heal just by helping other people. So while I was leading those support groups, other women were benefiting and sharing their stories of their pain and sharing their progress along the way. And I was also doing a deeper layer of healing myself. And the same goes for my Facebook community. I can relate to everything all of these estranged moms are going through because I've been there. I've gone through those things and I understand the pain at such a deep level, but I know that it's possible to not stay stuck there. And that's what motivates me to do this podcast, because the pain is greater than anything you've ever felt before. And yet so much growth and healing can take place. You can come out of it on the other side as a person whose faith has deepened, whose trust in God has grown, whose prayer life has developed into something deeper than you ever imagined, and as a person who has a deep sense of peace, regardless of what your child does or thinks or says. And God willing, you will also get to reconcile with your child. That is my greatest prayer, is that our children will be reconciled to God first and foremost, that their souls would be saved, and then that they would reconcile with their parents who they're estranged from. Because I believe that that is God's plan. That is consistent with the God of the Bible that we read about. So if you're listening today and you feel like you're still right in the middle of the pain of estrangement with really no clear end in sight, I want you to hold on to this truth. You don't have to stay stuck in that pain. You can begin healing and moving forward right where you are, even when nothing around you has changed yet. And often that moving forward starts with small, intentional steps. I've shared a lot of what helped me move forward because those things worked. So let's just recap those. First of all, I turned to prayer in a much deeper way. I learned to surrender what I could not control, especially my child, God's timing, and the outcome of our relationship. I accepted that estrangement is something I can't fix on my own, and I had to release the illusion of control. Then I intentionally engaged in my own healing by reading, learning, and participating in those support groups from other women who understood the pain of estrangement. And slowly, little by little, I started rebuilding my life. I found new rhythms. I explored new interests. I engaged in new activities to connect with people and things that I would enjoy. And then I also started serving and supporting other women who were going through estrangement, which became part of my own healing process as well. Now, you don't have to necessarily start a support group or start serving other women with estrangement. Just find something that allows you to give back and to help others in some way, whether that's helping in a soup kitchen, going on a mission trip, whatever it is. But when you serve and help other people, it really is instrumental in healing your own pain and helping you to find some silver lining in what you're going through. Now, I want to reiterate that none of the healing happened all at once. It was step by step and over time. So here's just a simple takeaway for you this week. Pick just one thing from this episode and start putting it into practice. You don't have to pick everything, just pick one thing. Maybe it's making some more time for prayer. Maybe it's intentionally identifying something about your estrangement and how you're trying to control it that you need to release. Maybe it's taking one small step to develop a new hobby or to reconnect with someone in your life outside of the realm of estrangement. Just start there, because your healing doesn't begin with everything changing all at once. It's going to begin with one small step toward God and one small step toward building your own life again. And little by little, God will meet you right there in the middle of your healing journey. Encourage a friend by sharing this episode with her, and don't forget to follow or like this show so that you don't miss a single episode. Hey, I hope today's episode inspired you. If so, would you click the follow button for the show and share it with someone who wants to learn more about trusting God? Also, please take 30 seconds to leave me a quick review of the show on Apple Podcasts. It means so much to me to know this podcast is encouraging you. Set your alarm to wake up to Jesus and your mocha, and meet me here every Tuesday for a new episode. See you soon.